Aloha, and welcome to A Better Day. I'm Sam Slom, and for the next half hour, I hope you'll stay tuned and join us because I think we're going to have an interesting program for you. We'll try to inform and educate and bring you some interesting thoughts and opinions and knowledge. And we're going to have a very special guest in just a few moments. You know, a lot of things have happened since we last met. The legislature is in the interim stage between sessions, which start in mid-January and go through May. But we have a lot of things that we do. We've had hearings, we have briefings, we have confirmations and all of that. And we just got through a not-so-special session devoted to same-sex marriage and a couple of other things. We've had a number of hearings, as I say. But the main thing that we're concerned about is what about Hawaii's future? What about Hawaii's economy and the choices that are available for you and your family? My position has been all along that while people tell us that we've turned the corner and the economy has gotten better, in fact it has not for most people. And most people are struggling. And most people, every time they go to the supermarket, have to make a decision as to whether they buy this or they get health care or they buy transportation or they pay their electric bill. So our point of view as the Senate minority is that Hawaii's better days are still ahead, that we should not be looking just for a good day, but a better day. That's what we're entitled to, and that's what we're trying to work towards. Anyway, some of the hearings that we've had over the last couple of weeks and months have been very interesting. One had to do with the so-called Health Connector, which was supposed to be up and running in Hawaii and nationwide on October 1st. You know the story, you know at least part of the story, that the connector, in fact, was not ready, is not ready now, has cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and has not done a darn thing to provide better health care, more options in health care, and lower premiums. But we'll talk to our guest about that in just a few moments. There was another hearing that was held that involved Hawaiian Electric Company and solar, particularly PV solar. Do you have PV on your roof? A lot of people do. In fact, Hawaii is the #1 state in the nation on a per capita basis with PV solar. And the statistics have just exploded over the last couple of years, spurred on by legislative tax incentives. But now what's happened is Hawaiian Electric Company has thrown a monkey wrench on this, and on September 6th, they decided to adopt new rules. In the middle of what's been going on with people signing contracts and waiting to have installation, they changed the rules. And in fact, have the power to decide whether or not there's too many people off the grid or on solar in a given neighborhood. And so even though there were signed contracts, even though customers, and you may be one of them because I had a lot of people call me, who signed a contract, went out and got a home equity loan, paid expensive fees and licensing, and maybe even put some money up front for the contractor, and then we're told, oh, wait a minute, the project's on hold because Hawaiian Electric would not give the final approval. Well, Hawaiian Electric explains it in terms of safety. I say baloney. It's not a question of safety, it's a question of them dragging their feet and trying to, at the last minute, without adequate preparation and without grandfathering in existing contracts, trying to slow down this process. Well, the legislature and my colleagues are interested enough in this situation that we want Hawaiian Electric to do what's right. We want them to do something that unencumbers those of you who may be at risk right now financially, who've waited months and months and are paying. You're paying off loans, you're paying off all kinds of things. You still don't have the PV solar. The companies are also at risk because they had to hire more people. They had to buy inventory. And it's a bad thing all around. Shouldn't happen. We'll look into it more and I'll be able to report more for you. As far as the economy overall, again, I would love to tell you that things have turned around here, that our unemployment has really substantially improved. It hasn't. What's happened is a lot of people now are not seeking jobs, or they have multiple part-time jobs, and so they're not on the unemployment database that we see. And so everybody talks about Hawaii's unemployment rate being among the lowest. We also talk about the booming visitor industry, and it's true. Our visitor industry has carried this state for 2 years now, but not construction, not manufacturing, not wholesaling, not retailing, and that's the problem. And that's why so many of you are struggling paying your mortgage, buying the food, paying the electric bill, and meanwhile every day in terms of infrastructure, water main break almost every day or more, sewer break, roads under terrible condition, all of that. We don't take care of the basics. Yet, we can have a session devoted to same-sex marriage and sexual orientation. Look, we've got to learn how to prioritize here, just like you do, in your family and in your small business. But if you don't hold our feet to the fire, if you don't go and vote, then we can run rampant and do the things that we do, raise our salaries, exclude ourselves from the laws that we pass for you, and all kinds of other things. So get involved. Get down to your legislature, talk to your legislator, talk to me, give me a call. I'd be glad to help you. Well, we've got a very special guest today. We've got a man that is very active in the community, is very well known, and has been a business leader, and has his finger on the pulse of a number of the problems and conditions that need change. Is Jack Schneider, and Jack Schneider is the head of JS Services, and it's a leasing company, an employee leasing company. He's one of the pioneers in the field, but he's also a director of Smart Business Hawaii. He's involved in a number of different organizations, leadership positions. He does extensive traveling, but he's been involved in these issues. So, Jack, we welcome you to A Better Day.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Give us a Jack Schneider 101, just a basic that you're allowed to legally, without
Okay, I'm allowed to do legally
without setting yourself up for legal confrontation.
Okay, I won't go back too far in my history. I'll go back to 1982.
When you were born, and no.
Yeah, I don't. Why bore everybody? It'll just be falling off the couches watching this on TV. But I started in 1982, and how did I start, or why did I start it? Very simple. I had another company that I had previously been a partner with, and we sold it. And I ended up on the short end of the stick with a couple of Apple II Plus computers, and that was it. So what do you do now? I wasn't about to go to work for anybody, so I sat back and I thought, what was it about the prior business that I did not like to do? I did not like to do payroll. I did not like to do payroll taxes, payroll tax deposits or filings. All that Mickey Mouse to me was humbug, didn't want to do it. Mm-hmm. So I started a company to do that, figuring if I didn't like it, nobody else liked it. Well, it's not that easy to start a company doing employee leasing when you don't know what you got.
Well, it's not that easy in Hawaii anyway. Well, you can start the company.
Yeah.
Surviving and profiting, that's a different matter.
Well, back then it really wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Things have gotten progressively worse over the years. But to start the company, I needed work comp. Mm-hmm. So I go to this work comp agent and I say, sell me some work comp. Okay, he says, sure. What kind of employees are you going to have? What are they going to do? What are you going to pay them? I don't know, because I haven't had any clients yet, so how do I know what I'm going to pay them? Anyway, long story short, he talked his boss into getting me insurance, and that's the way the company started. It's back in '82, and I had roughly double-digit growth from 1982 till 2008. That's when it hit the fan, not just in Hawaii, but throughout the country.
Sure.
And I had about a 30% loss in clients, in dollars, and things of that nature. That has not come back yet. Mm-hmm. What has happened is, from my point of view, the client base has shrunk. The employee base within the clients has also shrunk. They've been moving full-time people into part-time positions to get away from the healthcare laws. Mm-hmm. Basically, what that does is makes us work more for less, because these guys are getting less money. They're getting less of a paycheck. We get less of a fee. Mm-hmm. So we're working harder to make less money, all because of the healthcare laws in the state. Mm-hmm. We have 20 hours, the difference between part-time and full-time. In the real world, or the mainland, they have 30 hours. Big difference. So in the States, you can get by, on the mainland, you can get by with having somebody below 30 hours and basically get a full-time worker out of them. Mm-hmm. Here in Hawaii, 20 hours is not a full-time worker.
And of course, you're aware, because you follow the legislature, and over the years, labor unions here have introduced bills, or had bills introduced, mm-hmm. that actually would say if you have somebody working for you 1 hour or longer, that they would be entitled to these and other benefits as well.
Yeah, which, from a perspective of an employee, it's great. You really
Sure.
need these benefits. But I think we've gone overboard on generosity for unemployment insurance rates, unemployment insurance benefits. Mm-hmm. Somebody leaves a job here to go to the mainland just to go seeking other jobs, or to follow a spouse or to follow a girlfriend, he still collects. Mm-hmm. I mean, he doesn't have to get fired. He can quit and still collect.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is wrong. Unemployment insurance should be for somebody who loses a job, not
through no fault of their own.
Exactly.
Yeah, which was, actually, that was the original purpose. And nobody begrudges begrudge is that? Now look, you were a pioneer in this industry. How many businesses are involved in similar type of activities, payroll, leasing today?
Well, way back when I started, I was one of 40 in the country. Now there's about at least 10,000 or more.
Wow.
They're all over the place. They sprung up like mushrooms. Even here in Hawaii now, there used to be 2 or 3 players. Now we've got roughly a dozen. And a lot of the out-of-state companies have come in too. And the reason they came in was basically my own fault. We fought against the GET for employee leasing companies. And once we got the legal restraint on GET, and there is no GET on employee leasing now, then the out-of-state people came in and started undercutting us. So
now just to make it clear, we're talking GET, the General Excise Tax.
Correct.
And the reason that you were fighting against it, and I was too, and organizations like Smart Business Hawaii, was basically that the employers that you represented were already paying General Excise Tax.
Right.
And there was always already General Excise Tax on a number of these activities. So this was yet another example of the GET pyramiding, tax on top of tax on top of tax.
Right, and what made this particular GET even more onerous, because it was a GET on top of payroll.
Yeah.
And on top of work comp, and on top of unemployment insurance, and on top of TDI insurance.
People from other states, they hear these stories and they don't, they can't fathom them. Why would a state do that? Particularly a state that's trying to attract business or retain business and all of that. And to this day, people, including employers, still mix up GET and a sales tax. We do not have a sales tax. We have a general excise gross income tax, which is like no other tax of its kind in the country.
Exactly, and you're
and
right.
It's onerous, as you
You're
said.
right. And nobody understands this.
Yeah.
They really don't. Even the people in Hawaii still think of it as a sales tax. I've been educating employees that no, it's not a sales tax. And I go through the steps on how it multiplies, and I go, wow, they just didn't know. They just didn't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just part of the problems. The state being business friendly? No. How many legislators have really been in business? How many of them have ever made a payroll? How many of them have
Too few.
Exactly, too few.
Yeah.
So they've been on the government dole, which is not a very nice term, but they've been working for a government agency or for the government forever. And they don't have a clue as to what it takes to make a business, to make a payroll, and to pay the taxes.
What I have always told people, if you have a business background, I mean, you've operated your own business, it's not that you're any better than anyone else, not necessarily smarter. Well, you have to be half dumb anyway to go into business, particularly here. But you have experience, and when it's your own name on the business, when it's your own resources, when it's your own family, if you make a mistake, and we do, and you screw up, you're only going to do it once. But if you're in government, hey, you get reelected, you get appointed to something else, and you get a bigger grant or a bigger budget.
You probably get promoted.
Get promoted too.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, my experience with the government was the military, and if we had a secretary that we really had to get rid of, you promote her right out of the job.
Well, that's what we do here in the schools, the DOE. That's how a lot of principals become principals. Yeah, but that's another story. That's another matter.
Yeah, that's digressing too far.
Yeah.
And let's go to the present day. Obamacare, excuse me, the Affordable Health Care Act, which I'll still call Obamacare for simplicity's purposes.
I think more and more people now are finding out what some of us were saying before the law passed, and that is it's not affordable. And here was our president, God bless him. Our president was saying, you can keep your own plan. Wrong. You can keep your own doctor. Wrong. Your premiums will go down. Wrong. 0 for 3, you know.
That's
3
right.
strikes, you're out, but in this case, didn't happen. How does this affect you? How does what's happening now?
Well, what it's done is created mass confusion in my clients. The letter had to go out to everybody that Obamacare was ready and the connector is ready and you're supposed to call and do all this. But what they didn't say is you don't have to call a connector. You can keep the plan you've got now. If you have a Kaiser plan or HMSA or
If they don't cancel the plan on you,
that's another story.
that's another story, but that's
Yeah.
what a lot of insurers have done. They've sent out letters. I know HMSA did it. I know Kaiser did it too.
Yeah. But what is the connector? For HMSA and Kaiser, it's a marketing arm. Very simple. HMAA and UHA are not part of it.
Yeah.
So when you call a connector, you're not going to get a plan from HMAA or UHA listed. It'll only go to the 2 that are members, which is a little bit anti-competitive. But
Well,
that's
you and
another story.
you and I remember when Hawaii's Prepaid Health Care Act was first passed back in 1974, and they set up a prepaid advisory council. And who was on the council? HMSA and Kaiser. And what was one of their roles? When other providers wanted to introduce a plan in Hawaii, they got to say thumbs up or thumbs down. And guess what? They almost always said thumbs down, and
Of
it was
course.
their plans that they kept.
Yeah.
We are, unfortunately, we are really a non-competitive area. I mean, whether we're talking about education, whether we're talking about distribution of electricity, whether we're talking about health insurance. We love monopolies. I don't think we've met a monopoly that we didn't like. And it denies consumers choices, absolutely drives up the prices, makes sure that you're paying the highest price and getting little options of choice. And so that impacts you
Sure it does.
and the clients that you represent.
Yeah, and now wait till they see the price of these new plans come to first of
It's
the
just
year.
starting to come out now, though.
Yeah, it's just starting to come out, but don't forget that the insurance companies have to charge the 3.9% and this other fee and whatnot to pay for the connector. And guess where that money's coming from?
Well, that's right. I mean, I sat through the connector hearing here, and they've spent $53 million in the contracts to get a system up and running that's not up and running and doesn't do what it's supposed to do. There are tremendous costs, but their model, you are so familiar with business models and business plans and all that, and the business model that they used is unrealistic and unworkable. It depends on having a minimum of 100,000 new clients, and they're not going to have 100,000, and so what's their fallback position, which we had to drag out of them in the joint House and Senate hearing. The fallback position is, guess what? They're going to charge a new 2% tax on every premium, on the dollar premium amount. That's to keep the connector going. And what is the connector after all? It's yet another level of government. Our connector in Hawaii is set up a little differently from a number of other states in that it's set up as a nonprofit, but it's got to be paid for, and where's the money coming from? It's going to come from the taxpayers, it's going to come from the premium holders. So people that have found out, some news already found out that their premiums are going to go up, that they don't have the kind of plan that they had before, that they've got higher deductibles and higher caps and things like that. So far, it's unaffordable. So far, the connector is disconnecting people, and I don't see any positive nature in it. Big business was given a buy for a year. Labor unions are squawking that it's too expensive for their members. The only people that are not getting a buy are Mr. and Mrs. Hawaii, the normal family and small businesses.
That's right. And they're in for a big shock.
And there's an effort to try to get, a 1-year delay, but the Obama administration is smart enough to know they can give a delay to their big business cronies. They can give a delay to their union cronies. But if they were to give it to the general population, that would be more time for people to finally understand what's going on and for them to flee from this. They understand that in a year. I mean, here were the House Republicans, the whole thing about the government shutdown. The House Republicans, and God bless the conservatives, who were trying to make a point that was the time to stop this, divisive and destructive financial program. But they tried to get people to understand what was happening. Remember when the 2,000-page bill was initially passed and enacted into law in a great hurry, and Nancy Pelosi, who then was the Speaker of the House, said, well, first we'll pass the bill and then we'll read it.
Right.
Well, now we're reading it, 2-3 years later. By the way, talking about that health connector, when everybody said, well, it's just, some glitches like you have in every other situation, Kayak or Amazon. No, you don't. You go to the Amazon website, you're going to buy something before you come out of there. It's going to be delivered, it's going to be paid for and all that. They had 3 years to set up this procedure. And those of us that were critical from the beginning said, look, there may be flaws in our insurance laws and insurance procedures. Not maybe, there are. A little thing, for example, like portability. If you get insurance, you should be able to take it across state lines, or it should operate, over there. But instead of fixing those things, what we did was completely change the system. throw not only the baby out with the bathwater, but everything else besides, and we don't have anything to show for it. But the reason is the political agenda is such that the administration, the federal administration, and Governor Abercrombie, as he's indicated, really want to go to a universal single-payer program without insurance companies at all. They want to destroy the industry. That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
So you have any insurance friends or insurance clients? How do they feel these days?
Threatened, big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
So generally, look, you've been around the block, you've been to the dance a couple times. What do you think about Hawaii's economy? What do you think about the opportunities for changing it or improving it?
I think we're in deep kimchi. The opportunity for changing, I don't see it. You have the same people get reelected, and like Einstein said, keep doing the same things over and over again, you're going to get the same result.
Mm-hmm.
Unless we can get some fresh blood, interested, motivated to get out there and put their heads on the line and try and get elected, nothing is going to change.
You know, Hawaii used to be a pretty good business-friendly state right after
Mm-hmm.
statehood. In fact, we welcomed business, we welcomed new ideas, we welcomed new people, and now it was really funny because remember when Linda Lingle became governor, she said, the open for business sign is on again. Well, now nobody can even find the sign. Right. It's not only not on, but you can't find it, and we turn away opportunity after opportunity. All right, if Jack Schneider were in charge and you had the opportunity to make changes that you think would be necessary to improve some of these, not all, but maybe some of these situations, what would you do? What would be your priorities?
Well, the first priority would be to freeze government hiring and to shrink government. That would free up some money. Second thing would be to basically pare down some of the business taxes, some of the regulations. We can go through the regs and find out what is worthwhile and what is not. You can throw out at least a third of the regs off the top of my head. Just throw them out. Make life easier for the small businesses. Once life is easier for them, they will generate more business. When they generate more business, it means generating more jobs.
Yeah.
You have more jobs, more money is flowing around, which creates more jobs. But to have government sucking up the money, it's not going to work. We've got to cut back on the regs, cut back on the size of government. Maybe, to use that nasty word, privatize. That might be a good idea.
It works in other places.
Sure it does. The Opala, the garbage trucks, just for openers.
Yeah.
You can privatize that and put it out to competitive bidding. Should be no sweat on the union's part. There'll still be union jobs.
Yeah.
They'll just be getting paid by a private contractor, not by the government.
But as you say, we don't change. I mean, we have a president, and the president, when he ran first in 2008, I mean, his whole thing was hope and change.
Yeah.
Well, we may have the hope, we don't have the change, right? Except what's in your pocket.
I don't have any change anymore.
I was going to say, whatever you've got there. For those of us who do have business experience, who deal in the real world of supply and demand and all of that, the changes here are not rocket science. You can make changes, and you can make them incrementally, you can make them small changes, and from a perspective of a business person, we are optimistic people. And if you just indicate you're going to do something and then actually do it, man, you got us on your side, and we can do that. And when people come into Hawaii or think about investing or doing business here, they don't talk to government officials. They talk to business people. They say, well, how is it? What's the labor force like? What's the government like? What's the permitting process? I mean, permitting process. We've been talking about that for decades, about reform, right? And we haven't reformed anything. It's still a slow, laborious, costly process. And all of these things, every time you add a fee or a tax or whatever, it drags down on our economy. We've got ample opportunity, and yet we've got business and investment that overflies us eastbound and westbound. We miss all these golden opportunities, and we wonder how states like Oregon or Washington that don't have a beautiful climate like us, don't have beautiful beaches, and yet they've got the business and they've got the investment, because that's what's lasting. We can't get by on our beauty alone. Besides that, our beaches are eroding at rapid pace now in Waikiki.
Yeah.
So you would think that people would finally get together and say, we need to do things differently, but they don't, do they? It's the same old, same old.
Same. And
yeah.
I talk to people, who did you vote for? Why did you vote for them?
If they voted.
That's another story.
Right.
Once you get them to vote,
yeah.
then why did you vote for that person? Oh, he's the same ethnicity as me.
Yeah.
Oh, he went to the same high school I did.
Yeah.
Nothing whatsoever on what their voting record is.
Right.
Nothing to what he stands for.
I like that when people vote for somebody and they say, oh, he changed. He didn't change. You never asked him the question in the first place. You didn't ask him about workers' compensation or unemployment compensation or employer mandates. And
he changed his shirt, right?
Yeah, he changed his shirt. Yeah. So, well, if I had to sum up where you are right now, because you've been involved not only in businesses but also investment opportunities. You've backed people. You've done a lot of things. Would you do it again, starting out now?
Start another company? No.
Yeah.
No, I would not.
And see, that's sad because you're the person that's shown how to do it. And we invite people down the legislature and we say, how do you create more jobs? How do you turn this thing around? And of course we need more revenue. I vote against tax increases, but I want more revenue. You get that by having more businesses and creating a greater base and all that.
Exactly, yeah. But,
well, we haven't solved all the problems here, Jack, but at least we've suggested some things to do. Whether or not people will do them, that's another question. That's why you've got to get involved here and why you can make a difference. But if you say, I can't make a difference, the deck is stacked against me, the media sucks, it's a one-party system, I can't make a change, then that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Otherwise, I'm going to remain optimistic. I'm going to work as hard as I can. I want your help. We want to get the public behind some of these initiatives. If you need to talk more about it, you give me a call. We'll be glad to do it. So I thank Jack Schneider of JS Services, and I thank you for all you've done in the community as well and your continuing leadership.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
It's been my pleasure to be with you. Hope it's been informative. And remember, we're looking for Hawaii to have a better day. Aloha.